Apparatus belli, machina bellum, or just plain war machine, call it what you will, but don't call the person inside piloting the Stark Industries created suit anything other than James Rhodes. Maybe Jim, or Rhodey on a good day. After creating the groundbreaking superhero-producing Iron Man armor that seemed to prevail in any battle it faced, Tony Stark learned in a very hard way that it's not only the suit that needs to fight difficult battles. As Tony fell deeper into alcoholism, James had no choice but to commandeer the Iron Man armor and fill in for his friend. Now, piloting a suit not made for him took a toll on Rhodes, resulting in his need to relinquish the armor and mantle back to Tony. It turns out that Tony eventually develops an armored suit that is calibrated to James Rhodes, allowing him to comfortably take the mantle again, at least in a physical sense, as it was believed that Tony Stark was no longer alive. After learning that this was not true, Rhodes removed himself from the Stark equation, taking his calibrated armor with him, but leaving the name behind, thus beginning a new title, War Machine. Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan, aka JK of JK Collects, and remember, I'll be posting a new video at least twice a week, if not more. If that sounds of interest to you, please click that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. In this episode, we are taking a closer look at the Hasbro Marvel Legends 6-inch scale Marvel's War Machine. Hey everyone, welcome back, and here we have it, James Jim Rhodey Rhodes, aka Marvel's War Machine. I love these blister card packs, kind of bringing back those olden days, right? It's just that nostalgia pull, right? So let's flip it around and see what we got on the back. There we go, Iron Man getting kind of washed out by the lights. You know what? Let me dim these just a little bit to make sure we can see it. So what we have here, a little bit of information. It's War Machine, but they had to put Iron Man really big on there. They couldn't give War Machine just his own title, Iron Man, and then, Marvel's War Machine. But you know what? We're all about War Machine today. We're not about Iron Man. So let's look at it. We got a little bit of information talking about veteran Avenger and Air Force Colonel James Rhodes. So there we go. You know, we can call him Colonel. I'm sure he'll be happy about that. A little drawing of what's included and, hey, where to put them, right? How to use the pieces that come with it. That's always good to not have any questions. It's neat, right? It looks like a control panel of a computer just kind of giving us a schematic. Side, I mean, we're dealing with a blister, so side and side, it's not much to be expected there. Hey, there's our friend down at the bottom. And just the artwork on the top, right? Good depiction of old James Rhodes in his suit. When I saw this post, I was very excited. I didn't have a War Machine. I've never had a War Machine. I've had Iron Man figures before, but this one was cool. There's just something about it. But let's pop it open. Okay, full disclosure, much like the Beast one, in case you didn't see it, go check it out. It's a great figure. It was on the blister card, but just for safety and for time, I went ahead and cut the plastic around the edges because it's a delicate thing and I don't want to have any slips while on camera, and also safety first, kids, right? But this is the first time that I am opening it. I'm doing it with you. Hopefully I got all the plastic. Yeah, I think I got enough to be able to pull this bottom piece out. So there we go. Sometimes I accidentally perforate it, but hey, there's our pamphlet. Our best friend. So let's move it, right? Nothing else in there. We can see that full background image of old Rhodes. That's pretty cool. And then we've got the, almost looks like a metal door thing going on there. That's really neat. Like we're going to go into Cerebro or something, but that's not right. Okay, so let's pull these parts out. We've got some flame effects, some blast effects. I'm very excited about what we've got going on here. This it already can tell is well done. So I look forward to looking a little bit deeper together to see exactly how well done it is. Let's pull these little rockets out. Nice little pieces to easily lose. At least they are painted a nice bright orange. And grateful that they are. Pardon the noise, we're pulling old Rhodey out. That's it for the tray. Everything's out of there. Put him to the side for a moment. And since I have one of these little rockets in my hand, that's where we'll start. So let's get this focus right. And there we go. Get it in the light and get some focus on that. So there we go, right? Just a basic rocket. Nothing special about it. There's not really much you can do unless you want to add some lines and some little panels and stuff, but with this having almost a cartoony type approach or comic-y approach, I didn't really expect too much of it, right? This works very well for it. A little bit of casting flash right there on one of the fins, no big deal. You can always just position it away from eyesight, right? Line of sight, I guess we'll say. This is made of a nice flexible rubbery material, so that is great for safety. And it came with 3 of them. However, a fun thing, boom, we also have a flame blast effect to accompany that, right? So we've got the action shot of rockets being fired that we can have with our figure here. Okay, my focus is just going for a whirl. Let's switch to manual and let's get it nice and close. Here we go. There we go. There is our flame effect. Very cool, right? So we got that spirally look that the rockets do that we see a lot of times, and that's just very cool. You know what? Let's go ahead and stick them on there while we're looking at it, because they all have the little hole in the back to where it will attach to each little flame trail here. And I like that we've got one that's just barely coming out, right? So it's very exciting, right? Not for whoever is on the receiving end of it, but for me, putting it in, very exciting. Now that one did have a little bit of a struggle, so hopefully you won't have any peg issues with this flexible blast plastic, but that is very cool. I look forward to holding on to it a little bit better and also attaching it to the figure here in just a little bit. As we can see, it definitely attaches to an accessory, and that accessory, believe it or not, is a rocket launcher, right? So this looks like one of the things that we had set to be put on a shoulder peg, perhaps. And then we have the blast that goes on the end of it. So let's just do it. Why not? Does it have a specific way? I don't know. You may think that there's a better way to do this. I'm going to think that the smoke here is kind of trying to travel up since this grips onto it a little bit more. But, you know, I'm sure there might be a little bit better way of doing it, and there could be, right? So if we do it this way, then obviously the larger one travels a little bit higher, but it seems like it doesn't necessarily want to hook on and stay. So I'm thinking this might be the actual way, because it seems like it hugs it a little bit better, and there's no droop after attaching it to it. But regardless of how it attaches, this is one cool accessory. I do love all these effects, the blast effects that we're starting to see come with figures, because it just adds that little bit of extra something to it, right? That extra life, that extra reality. And speaking of blast effects, here is yet another one, right? And I bet we can probably guess this attaches to yet another weapon. So very well done. This translucent orange fading into like a yellow almost, just because, probably because the orange gets a little thin. But they do such a good job with something that seems so simple. Very well sculpted, all these. We've got little pieces coming off of it, little flame effects and all that. I am loving these things, right? Normally you had to get them from like a separate pack, but here is the weapon that it most likely attaches to. Let's see, we've got a bit of a Gatling gun here that's also a shoulder piece, a shoulder cannon, if you will. Almost looks like it has a scope. Seems kind of pointless. I'm going to say it's probably just a sensor that communicates with the War Machine. Excuse me, James Rhodes. Armor. Right, he's a separate entity. He's not Iron Man. And let's see about attaching this on here. This one, I don't know that it's going to have any specific thing, right? Because it's not having to support a lot of rockets. One thing that I'll say is as I rotate it, it does seem to kind of change its direction just a little bit. So just be mindful of that. And when you decide, you know, what looks best as far as something blasting out of this thing. But very cool. Yet again, more life ready for this armor once we're ready to start looking closer at it. And then we have a spare set of hands, one being a fist, another being an open hand, which is ready for some effects on there, but there weren't any that were included with it. So it is ready if there is a blast effect for that from maybe another War Machine or another Iron Man or another armor or anything that would fit in there, we can attach it to it, right? So we do have that, and we do have a fist. So with it being 1 and 1 of each, I'm going to go ahead and assume, and we're ready to pull this guy over. Would you look at that? The other matching one is attached to War Machine himself. So there's our other fist, and there is our other open-palmed blast effect ready hand, right? So there we go. All right, let's take a closer look at War Machine, the figure itself. So like I said earlier, just looking at it, it's such a striking figure, right? There's something cool about it. The color palette, the slightly light gray mixed with the flat black, so shiny light gray nonetheless, mixed with a flat black. It feels like we're dealing with mostly cast plastics, whether it's a rubberized plastic or hard plastic for the light gray. the slightly cartoony animated look to it, or comic book appearance. I just love it, right? These figures, it's what they came from. They came from comic books. So I'm all for when they have this look, and it's kind of more of a classic retro-ish look. But let's take a closer look at the head, right? So with these, with the stark armor faces and heads, there are always these very fine lines, right? So it seems like it would be incredibly difficult to get it straight. You see a lot of customizers, they do some magic with their pins, getting these things straight. Sometimes they even end up slightly crooked, even when a machine is doing it, right? And this one here, you can see a slight bit, but from a distance, you can't tell, right? If we're right up close, you can definitely see some error or some issues, but not enough to really stand out and cause any kind of concerns of quality. The eye slits looking great, almost perfectly done, I would say. We'd have to get incredibly close, microscopic, to see what the major issues were. Over here on the edge, I've got something. I can't tell if it might just be a piece of debris or something, because it seems like it moves. But anyway, it doesn't seem like it's an issue. The sculpting of the head looking great, right? So cast in this this somewhat rubbery type plastic, like we see for the heads, right? So they have that ability to flex when putting it on and off of the ball that is on the neck. I like the paint in the little sensor that we've got here, or what have you. The details that are etched into that, the almost the mohawk across the top there. It's just a well done head, right? So I am a fan. Shiny light gray paint. That's a pretty close match to the cast gray plastic throughout the figure, right? So good work there. Marvel Legends, solid. Now, neck appears attached to the torso because if I push, it does not move. Head does have some excellent movement though. So side to side, I mean, look at this. That is pretty solid. Up and down, very good. We're not looking like we're straight forward. And then up, same thing. We're looking up so we can fly into the sky. So straight forward would be just about this. So we got a good down and we've got a good up. And I don't know if you saw when I was playing with it, it has very good mobility as a back and forth. I mean, look at that. It can do some Night at the Roxbury type stuff, right? So very cool. But Night at the Roxbury aside, let's see if it can full oh, look at that clearance on that. Oh, that peg for the cannon. Full exorcist rotation. It's like they were prepared for it. They knew it was coming. Even if I tilt the chin out and forward as much as I can, we're still cleared. So we got full exorcist rotation. Fantastic. Fully approved. Now, speaking of rotation and clearance, here in the shoulder, very interesting. So this shoulder pad, at first it seemed like it was fixed to the arm, but it is not. It is attached with a little piece right there, you can see, to the this torso armor, right? So this upper torso bit, it is attached to it. It is all that rubberized black plastic. So I'm happy to see that, because what that's going to mean is, if I can get it to move with me, arm mobility, right? Now I don't see a I don't see a butterfly joint in there, so some mobility may be sacrificed for that, but really, ultimately, it's moving pretty well. It does move back quite well, so I don't really see any major hindrance by not having the butterfly. I will say that this shoulder does not want to rotate, so it's going to take a little bit of movement. Joints are a little bit stiff right there, but it does have the ability to move around. And we have the upper bicep tricep rotation capability, and it seems to be pretty solid, not catching, because we've got the rounded shoulder, and even though we have that kind of U shape there, it still has good clearance, right? So we're good on that. Oh, we've got a nice double pinless elbow going on here. But one thing that stands out, the gauntlet gets in the way, right? So we do have the option of pretty solid flexibility, right? Pretty solid flexibility, but that gauntlet is going to impair some of the additional flexibility that it could have. And I do love this shiny gray plastic that they cast this in. So speaking of forearm, the gauntlet, no forearm rotation, but we do have wrist rotation, obviously. And we've got some pretty good, oh, it's coming right on out. So the good thing about that is we can then see there's not really any up, down, forward, backward movement on this wrist. So it's just, we're just looking at that capability. This wiggle seems like it's just because of the peg and how it fits in there. I don't really see any internal travel there. So be cautious with that when posing. If you see something different on yours, or you have a different experience, please let me know, because I would love to know that I'm just missing it and I do have some additional flexibility in there. So same thing across the rest of this other arm. Same thing with the fist. We don't really have any hinge to give it any back, forth, up and down. Actually, you know what? Let's see. Am I seeing that right? Yes, there we go. So yeah, you know what? That one does not have it, but here in the fist, we do have it. See that? If I look closely enough, there is a hinge there. See, I started to jump to conclusions, but then we look closer, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we have a closer look. So there we go. So we do have good rotation on the fist. It does move around this arm cannon, but it also helps that the arm cannon is a flexible rubber material, so it will move out of the way. Otherwise, it would probably provide a bit of a hindrance. You can see it's kind of pushing it there. But there we go. Good flexibility on that. Torso, we have this seam here, which is well hidden by the armor, right? We can see a little bit right here in the gray, but otherwise it hides in this black all the way up underneath this flexible chest armor. See, so we've got it. You can see up in there, there is a cavity, but you can't see that unless you angle it, right? No matter, even if I tilt it back, you can see it kind of curving up, but they kept this metal plate looking piece all the way up to disguise as much of that seam as possible. Same thing on the back. So very well done on that. You can see a little bit of the gray when we tilt it there and a little bit more of the cavity, but still they kept that metal pattern all the way up. So well done on that, and good job masking that. Hip rotation, pretty good. We got a good spin around there. That's painful. Hey, it's a Hammer Industries one, right? Turns around. There we go. Right, just like Iron Man 2. Okay, this belt is, you know, it moves, but it almost seems like it might be glued on or attached a little bit in some random spots, maybe on the side to kind of help keep it. But it would only be this side, so I'm not entirely convinced. It does move around, but it doesn't want to travel. So that I'm happy about. The legs, no real pull down, but not a terrible hindrance in the flexibility. You know, it is still a dude in a suit of armor, so you know, flexibility is equal to what this can do and the person inside. So not bad. We can still get a war crescent kick, almost a war split. Thigh rotation, we got a pretty solid one right there. Pretty easy to move, not too bad. It does throw off the seam on that, and it almost looks like, I don't know if you can tell, but they almost look like they're slightly different shades. There's a little bit more of a blue shade to this and a slightly yellowed shade to it. Can you see that? It's interesting, and that has the slightly yellowed look to it, whereas here is a slightly blued. So I'm very curious if maybe these were cast at different times in different plastic mixtures and something maybe went wrong. Not a bad thing. Doesn't really stand out. This is, again, looking as closely as we can. Great flexibility with that double knee. It does have pins, but no big deal. Are we ready to limber up for the race? Yes, we are. We are. The hand's not ready to grab it, but you know what? It's the idea of limbering up for the, dare I say, Iron Man race. Yeah, I did it. Okay, so calf rotation, we've got none there, but foot, we've got the good up and down, and of course we've got the ankle breaker. So perfect, and same thing on the other side, right? As usual, it's fairly symmetrical. This is one of the first times I've seen an asymmetry between the hands, but that is built into the hand itself, right? This one is just designed to be a blaster hand. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay, so great figure. All in all, what I'm seeing, very happy with my investment. I think you would be too. But let's take a little bit closer look at some of the other features, maybe paint apps. You can see here in the middle, I like what they did with the blue. It's a blue paint. It almost looks like it's a sticker. And then they've got like the little shine, the white kind of shine on there, the reflection of some light casting off of it, just to add a little bit of depth to it. And the blue on the head, not terrible. A little bit of black showing through it and a little bit of bleed over around the edges, but nothing to really worry about. The rest of it, we're not dealing with any paint apps. We're dealing with cast plastic, whether it's harder plastic, rubberized plastic, nice glossy plastic. The only thing that really stood out is that slightly different. There's a little bit of yellow to that, where there's a little bit more of I want to say a bluish to the light gray there. Hopefully you won't see it on yours. Hopefully this is just an aberration. But if you do, just take a closer look and check and see. See if you see it for yourself. But there we go. But like I said, it's not enough for me to really worry about. But let's stick these on. Admittedly, I did not pay attention to the instructions on the box as far as which one goes on which side. But isn't that the beauty of it being your figure, right? As long as it goes And as long as it's going on the right person, it doesn't matter which side you put it on, because you design it how you want it to be. So here he is in the middle of the action, Colonel James Jim Rhodey Rhodes, aka War Machine, but standing so wonderfully on his own. You know what? Let's change the angle of this, because now we don't have that giant box to keep in frame, but we want to take a look at old James Rhodes. Look at that. He stood perfectly with all these contraptions, right? So look at that. Pulling forward, you've got a lot of weight trying to pull him forward, but he stood absolutely wonderfully on his own. You saw very minimal effort and very little time spent like posing and trying to create any balance. So excellent work on that. I am very pleased. The only thing I would say, as usual, a little bit of a dry brush or a wash to bring out some details, but that would take away the comic cartoony kind of look. So well done. I definitely like this one. And we'll be back with some 360 views. How about that? So anyways, I just started blasting Colonel James Rhodey Rhodes, circa 2022. But there he is, our War Machine figure, Colonel Rhodes, ready to just fight anyone at any direction. As you can see, posability, fun, right? So arm rotation gave me a little bit of difficulty in getting it straight up because the shoulder doesn't necessarily want to rotate. But all in all, good figure. I definitely recommend this one. I liked it. Nothing really was bothersome about it. You may not like that cartoon comic look, and if so, this may not be the one for you. But if you do, definitely pick it up. It's worth it. Thanks. Well, that about does it. Thank you, as always, for checking us out and for joining us on this collecting journey. Look for a new video each week, if not more. Be sure to subscribe and click that like button. It would really help us out, and as always, it would really mean a lot to me. If you'd like to see some more videos, there are a couple of quick links on your screen right now for you to check out. No matter what, thank you for taking the time, and we are all in this world of collecting together. Let's look out for each other. Thanks.